Metroid Dread's cutscenes are like droplets of holy water. A simply divine interaction that purifies one's spirit and awakens the light inside of them, receiving a taste of heaven. Every single frame manifested before us through these spectacular events was perfectly set in place for us to see how far the Metroid series has come throughout the years. Truly, we have never felt so blessed to be a Metroid fan, because deep down, I passionately believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that these cutscenes were made to feel like this. As if the astonishingly polished to a shine detail couldn't scream it loud enough, it's 100% clear that so much love was put into them. And naturally, since there are so many great examples to choose from, I'll happily dissect 3 of my favorite scenes for my answer. So without further ado,
time to begin the countdown!
Floating high above the stratosphere, not exactly safe from imminent danger at number 3, is Ravenbeak struggling with a fucking pissed off bounty hunter. Mortal strike provoked by pure seething vindication, completing the cycle for the series' antagonist's untimely, inevitable, crushing defeat. At its horrifyingly unstable core, the warlike death scream erupting from Samus's unrestrained, cathartic fury, building up to overpower the now ironically powerless Ravenbeak, is easily the primary selling point for a lot of people adoring this grand finale. But what I especially love the most about this entire moment is how gruesomely violent it actually is. It's the whole idea of Samus reaching her limit and suddenly acquiring the ambition to kill Ravenbeak without goddamn warning. And the best part is that all of it happens instantaneously. Thinking she passes out unconscious, left hand turns into a claw surging with energy, gravity suit literally gone in a flash, unleashing the beast writhing in untamed rage, and proceeds to, this is insane, slash through Ravenbeak's helmet and gouges her claws deep into his goddamn skull. I've rewatched this cutscene so many times that I find it incredulous that the amount of damage Samus was dealing to Ravenbeak is so severe to the extent that the game outright prevents you from seeing it. Even when you play it frame by frame, Ravenbeak's left eye is completely out of view until his X transformation. Considering the uncut, gruesome scenes that's happened before in this series, this is surprising. But it's the obvious implication that counts enough. Samus tore in Ravenbeak's face. In addition, if it weren't for the situation of Itarash plummeting to its destruction through ridiculous energy siphoning, Samus could have very easily gone much farther than Ravenbeak's vision on Metroid powers backfiring. She could have ripped his fucking head off given the opportunity. I mean, seriously. For one, her hand is dug in so deep into his face that it looks like it's stuck in there. Secondly, this. You can't tell me that she wasn't about to do exactly that at the moment right before Samus pins him to the ground. It's way too obvious that was her intention. On the plus side, I also like the choreography behind the body movement. Seeing a humanoid creature more than twice the size of Samus acting so helpless against her is always satisfying to watch, and this scene is definitely no exception. Nice touch with her pushing down Ravenbeak's arm cannon with her leg when he tried to fire it as well. It may have a lot going on due to the pink lighting effects, but the animations for both characters are still very smooth. I also find it funny that Ravenbeak's helmet is completely gone from existence. Not a scrap left behind anywhere in the background. And that he still has her by the neck. Except it's not working anymore. Our second entry is the introduction with Quiet Robe.
Anaman henki maradis. Pisalakutar ili thoja hasana. Ilichozo man faragai atasen mamoris ashkar behek.
I really don't need to explain this one, do I?
Ilitanumar tarbichozo rahama hasana mamoris ili maukim. Saharilin ili maukim. Pinoras hasana tarbilichozo. Urairisi dos karodan ili mathroid. Nirmugitalar suradis me ili agar nalima.
It's been done, reiterated, and transcribed by many since.
Habari hundar tarasabekes en holchanim. Linkatalu ili uliris. Sabalma. Ashkar behek. Hasari gale ubana dosh elegar mir. Ninu barash nek ili ferun tar hadar.
A blessing, an answered prayer, literally everything a Metroid fan could ever ask for. So really, what else is there left for me to possibly say about it?
Behek gabori dosh balan ili mathroid dosh ili tarin nalima hemsatar. Humbim bi galki sakra. Dosh horek bura. Ninu mehirin ili thoja hasana. Bimura gabara ili sahali.
Aside from the detail behind the official Chozo language and lip syncing, and of course, hearing one speak for the very first time, it's the display of emotion that I'm attached to the most. To put it simply, this ancient cutscene conveys more than just a story unfolding. Over time, I began to notice that it contains a much deeper meaning than what we already perceive it as something truly special. Have you ever wondered why a remix of Lower Brinstar is used during this scene? Sure, it may have been to appeal to the fans and create genuine Metroid imagery, but there's something about how it's arranged that makes it feel tragic. Rather than uplifting and calm like it usually is, this version of Lower Brinstar plays out in a slower, regressive tempo, as if that it's lingering in regret. It fits like a glove for Quiet Robe foretelling the events, since he was the one who witnessed everything. That's when I realized that this cutscene is more than witnessing ancient living history. It's about acceptance. The moment Quiet Robe deactivates the Emmy to rescue Samus, that's when it ends. Deep down, Quiet Robe knew that Ravenbeak would immediately get rid of him if he ever spoke out of line. Convincingly, his plans have likely changed to clone Samus after their first encounter, leaving only Quiet Robe, a scientist of the Toha tribe, in charge of the Emmy units as backup, which makes sense. He was well aware that he'd die if he broke out of Ravenbeak's control, but ultimately, he decided to take matters into his own hands and set things right, thus accepting his fate. He knew all along that it would end like this. You can hear it in his voice.
Thoja hasana. Bimura gabara ili sahali. Doshuran ili mathroid. Gal mir tostek. Ananakoden mugi akalai.
The sorrow, emotion, and regret alluding to the horrible things he's done as Ravenbeak's assistant, or tool for a better way to describe it. The moment he began talking to Samus Aran, that was a time when he couldn't handle it anymore. And so Quiet Robe prepared. The truth was revealed, and he took the final blow. As soon as he briefly looked away before revealing Ravenbeak's plans with the Emmy, that's when the final nail in the coffin was put into place. The amount of emotion that imbues from the atmosphere and Quiet Robe's tone of voice throughout his entire speech with Samus hits tremendously deep. It greatly emphasizes the aspect of grief Quiet Robe has been through ever since the incident occurred. Like every other Chozo, they seek peace and prosperity. He originally desired to have the Metroids balance the life on SR-388 to prevent parasite outbreaks. But unknowingly, he created their own that would spell disaster in the end for many. Forced to watch his people die in cold blood by the hands of a tyrant. Taken in for the purpose of controlling what the others can't. Forever portrayed as the key to galactic conquest from the very creature he created in hopes to bring peace to a planet he wanted to call home, and possibly witness far worse on ZDR. He didn't want any of this to happen. On the outside, a breath of avian antiquity glows valiantly in historic, corresponding value. But reality reveals on the inside. This cutscene greatly represents a brave and noble sacrifice slowly taking place, as Quiet Robe betrays Ravenbeak and makes the decision to help Samus, by offering every last bit of his wisdom and further supplying the former deeply conflicting situation into a powerful scale of motivation, solemnly swearing to end the crisis once and for all. A shining example of tragedy and grief, and replaces it with the beauty of acceptance, however short-lasting it is. This moment will always be a legendary relic written in all of Metroid history. Ahem. And finally, contained in ambiguous unanswered restraints at number 1, lies the physical manifestation of two characters not happy to see each other, in completely polar opposite manners for each. On one hand, Kraid is severely annoyed out of his mind that he happens to be just unlucky enough to encounter his sworn mortal enemy at a time so incredibly embarrassing. And on the other hand, Samus is devoid of expression and emotion altogether upon noticing who's in front of her and doesn't take him seriously at all. She just goes from arm cannon at the ready to kill the next big target to slowly dropping her guard and stands there unflinchingly in a way of saying, "Oh, it's just you." Proceeding to casually point her gun into Kraid's mouth and fires a charge shot as if to say, "Alright, let's just get this over with." The main thing that cracks me up the hardest about this classic reunion is how much Samus doesn't give a fuck about Kraid being on ZDR of all places, and only cares about the fight being done and nothing else, since she's been there and done that on Zebes several times. And she handles this so casually, like Kraid is nothing but a chore to her by this point. But by far the most hysterical characteristic behind this short interaction is the fact that Kraid can't do a damn thing about it. It is absolutely hilarious to me seeing him struggle so much, desperately trying to reach Samus with his limbs chained to a wall, seething with anger, and even more so when Samus toys around with him just to piss him off even more. All without a care left in the world. And Kraid's glaring expression after being shot point blank in the mouth is just icing on the cake. It is so fucking priceless to me, and it never gets old. You really can't help but feel sorry for the poor bastard when all the treatment he receives is straight up abuse on ZDR. especially for his final appearance even. That's just a depressing way to go. Also, this may just be me reaching a little, but I always interpreted Kraid's middle finger briefly hanging on the edge before sinking into the lava was sent as a "I hate you" expression, or more simply put, a "fuck you" gesture towards Samus. How odd is it that Metroid Dread has the best iteration of Kraid despite the heavy restrictions put onto him? That's something I still can't get over, honestly. But one thing is most definitely for certain. Actions speak louder than words. And they are 100% priceless!